Progress.
Welcome to a muzzled chat.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, David, what's up?
Not much.
All right, I'm going to address the listeners just real quick here. Hope you're having a lovely weekend. Thanks for joining us today. Guys, listen to our guest, David, here. He's got an incredible story. When I had even a brief conversation with him on the phone the other day, man, you almost got me into tears because it took me back to a lot of the struggles I had in my youth, my rebellious teenage, and even into my adulthood. This life is extremely challenging. You throw a freaking disease like this that people around us don't understand, it becomes over the top challenging. Like I don't know how else to say it. So with that, I just hope and pray, David, you and I can just be raw, open, dive into things. Maybe with a little luck, we'll be able to connect some dots for people and bring understanding to what threats are out there, what people are struggling with, and hopefully in doing this, we'll breathe some light also to those dealing with this horrific disease. So that being said, man, I couldn't be more excited to have you on Unmuzzled Chat. Thank you so much for showing up in this selfless nature and giving.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. So you've been through hell and back. You've had a really tough road, and like me, it seems they didn't. Doctors, family, a lot of people around you didn't get to the root of issues, which led to a very tough road. Come to find out, Lyme was at the root of it. You've now had some breakthroughs. Let's dive into your story a bit, man. Okay,
man.
Let's go back. When did things start getting hard for you, and led to these challenges?
So I was around age 10, and I started getting very, very ill. I had all kinds of muscle aches, swelling of the knees, hypoglycemic, headaches, massive headaches, tons and tons of stuff. Went to my primary doctor, who was my doctor since birth, knew everything about me, knew I wasn't a hypochondriac. Sat on the table after him doing all the blood work and everything. This was around 1990 when, Lyme's disease really wasn't anything big back then. I mean, they knew about it, but there wasn't lots and lots of testing or anything.
Right.
So after all the testing he did, I'm sitting on the table, and he's standing, talking to my mother right in front of me. And I'll never forget it, because you just don't forget this as like a 10-year-old, he says to my mother, he says, he needs help. He's sick in the head. He needs to see a psychiatrist. There's something wrong with him.
Right.
This is all in his head. And I remember my mother, she's one of the few people in this whole world who never gave up on me to this day. And she believed me right from the beginning. And she just went off on him. Took me to 9 more doctors, pediatricians, and basically they all kind of said the same thing. Finally, the 11th doctor, rheumatologist, he says, I know what's wrong with you. He says, I'm going to fix you. Took some blood work, went back, and he says, sure enough, he says, you have HLA-B27 gene. He says you have spondylitis and Reiter syndrome. So my mom asked him, she said, what can we do for him? He says, son, he says, you're going to be on Advil, Naprexin, Tylenol for the rest of your life. He says, to ease the inflammation and the pain. And that was it. That's all I knew. Went on, and you just dealt with it. As a teenager, like you said, those were tough times. I mean, you're a teenager. You're dealing with your first love of girls, and like all these different things. Like that should be your biggest problem. It's if the girl in the whole classroom likes you, but
Right.
when 340 of the 365 days you're sick, and it's
Right.
not a sickness it's not a sickness like, you have a high fever and you're like sick in bed. People don't see it. It's, you don't see
You
inflammation in the
can't
body. You
get
don't
out of
see,
bed. You can't
yeah,
really function normally. And that was one of more so the greatest challenges reflecting back. Wasn't even so much what I was dealing with at that time, because it hadn't gone chronic for me, was how it was chalked up that I was the issue. Like
yep,
that became a greater challenge. I was like, thought I was just dumb,
yeah,
special.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
I pull this out. I don't even know. My light doesn't let things read, but
okay,
just to let you know, you're not alone. Psychological testing right here. And this isn't the
yeah,
only time I went through that in my life, but we were
yeah,
made up to be the issue, counselor after counselor. And some of them would help to an extent because they cared enough. You can unload on them enough to where it helped get me out of that fight or flight, but it was a band-aid because it's not addressing the root of the issue. There's only so
exactly.
much things you could work. I mean, you literally now have like this spirochete wreaking havoc on the body. So like
Yep.
you can't really counsel yourself out of that. There's medical intervention and other things needed. We'll continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. Not before I continue. It's just
Yeah.
something you just said about the Band-Aid and stuff. I just heard something on a YouTube video the other day because I watch a lot of self-help stuff,
Good stuff.
and it said, I can't remember exactly how he words it, but his words are something like Western medicine, traditional medicine is basically like being a beginner skier, and you go up to the Black Diamond slope, and instead of at the top them saying, "Hey, be careful, don't go down that slope, you might get hurt," they wait at the bottom with an ambulance. It's the same thing. Like they're not looking to help you from the beginning. They're not looking to find the root cause or treat. They're just
Wow.
treating the symptoms, like you said, the Band-Aids. So that's why I just thought about that.
I love it. Yeah.
So from there, like I said, that was age 10 or roughly. Then around age 13-ish, my parents went through a very, very violent divorce. They had their issues. And so things psychologically started to get worse in that aspect too. So I had two things. I was also not the most popular kid in the school. So I was getting picked on I was getting picked on at home. I was getting brutalized here. I was brutalized at school. So, I mean, everything started to take a toll on itself. My mother was very suicidal. So that became a part of my being. And I think my first time I was suicidal, I played hockey. I was probably around 14, 15-ish. And the hockey puck hit me right here, split my lip right open. You could see my teeth. And I remember thinking, I can't go to school. I got made fun of at school all the time just when I'm normal. How am I going to go to school with this big split open lip? And I actually thought about killing myself for the first time then.
Wow.
And it became like a normal thought process.
Right.
If my car didn't start and I got to get to work, or, just the stupidest things, it's like, oh my God, my life is over. I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
It just became a daily thing of, there was no like, it'll be all right. Everything's going to be all right. Your car's not starting. Go to the store, fix it. It did not click in my brain.
It's an abnormal normality in that
Exactly.
state that no one picked up on, but it's you. It's me.
Yep.
As the world would see it. But it's not. No one in their right mind really would accept that as a normalcy. There's literally a fibrous little bastard wreaking havoc throughout your whole body that is attributing to that, let's just say, psychological state, or that it's just having that type of impact when your body isn't producing the proper amounts of dopamine and serotonin or cortisol. Of course, you stub your toe, you trip up in this life, you're going to resort to Lyme rage, all sorts of unrational behavior.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then,
Dang.
you know, I had it at home, I had it at school, but then you also have the Lyme disease. And for me, later on in life, I found out that the Lyme disease was mostly in my brain. So how much was it the childhood trauma and how much was it of the Lyme disease? So you don't really know. There's no science behind it. I have a brain lesion, so it obviously affected my brain.
Right. I believe the Lyme disease magnifies those traumas like exponentially, like to where you can't move past it. Yeah.
I think that's exactly it. Exactly.
Right.
100%. I agree with that. So I ended up meeting my wife. I was a senior. She was a sophomore, actually. We're only a year apart, and we started dating. But unfortunately, looking back, I was a real ass of a boyfriend because, like, I was so psychologically messed up. I don't know why she stayed with me. I really don't. But we ended up getting married. I think I was 22. She was 21. Wow. And we tried. And around 25-ish, I guess, it just got so bad. My psychological stuff. It got so bad that she just said, "I'm done," and she left. And that's where I said, all right, something's wrong here. I never really thought it was me. Yeah. You're so messed up in the head. You don't really think it's you. You think it's everybody else. So I finally went to a psychologist. She says, the only way, you have to go see a psychiatrist. So I went and saw a psychiatrist, and first appointment there, 15 minutes in the room, you're bipolar disorder. It blew me away because it just was just that, getting run over by a freight train kind of feeling. But on the same respect, my mother had bipolar disorder. So it was like, all right, okay, I have bipolar disorder. My mother has it. What are you going to give me? What pills are you going to give me? They don't tell you, though, when they give you these pills, they don't tell you. No. Big Pharma wants you on these pills for life.
Right.
Where pretty much almost any Big Pharma pill, you're supposed to take it. It's supposed to get you to a certain point of being able to heal, and then you're supposed to find the root cause. And in a psychological standpoint, I don't really care who you are or what you are. I don't care if it's schizophrenia or what it is. There has to be more to your recovery than just pills.
Right.
So I never really did anything is my point. I just took the pills. And you think that's just going to be it. The first set of pills he gave me actually made me go psychotic. Me and my wife went on a cruise maybe 6 months later. And I literally almost jumped off the cruise ship. I literally was just psychotic.
Wow.
And it turned out that those drugs that they put me on literally make you suicidal.
Wow.
So from there, my journey just kept continuing with getting worse and worse. I had mono at 26. At around 28, I got C. diff in my stomach. And so at age 30, I started going downhill. I started getting worse and worse. Pain was worse. My mental health was worse. Everything was just getting worse. I started drinking. I started taking opiates, anything I could get my hands on. I got into a small dirt bike accident and they gave me Percocet. And I remember the first night I came home, I popped that Percocet in my mouth, and you just sit on that couch and you sink into that couch, and your body doesn't hurt. Your mental mind doesn't hurt, and you're just watching that TV in this zombie numb state. And it's just like, wow, this is what I've been looking for.
Wow. Right. Wow.
So I continued taking those opiates, anything I could get Vicodin, anything I can get my hands on, I was taking it.
Right.
And unfortunately, that just messes your mind up even more.
Right.
So towards my 31st birthday, I started getting really, really bad. And I started planning everything. And on my 31st birthday, I finally went through with it. And I took as many pills as I possibly could. And this is kind of where God comes into play, because it's like everything had a purpose and a plan for attack of how things were going to go, to where he said, it's not your time. You're not ready.
Wow.
So I took all these pills. My birthday is November 30th. So it was a couple days after Thanksgiving, about a week after Thanksgiving, roughly. And I went to my buddy's house that night. I took all the pills and I went to my buddy's house because I didn't want to die at home. I didn't want my wife to wake up to that. And he offered me a turkey sandwich. And I said, all right, I'm hungry. I hadn't really eaten much. I'll take it. Well, the turkey was old, bad, and I ended up throwing up, which threw up all the pills.
Wow.
So that was God's first way of saying, all right, you're not ready. No, I'm not taking you yet. You have a purpose here. You're not done. So I came out of that, and my wife ended up getting me into the hospital, into the ER. And she tried to get me admitted into the psych ward and everything, telling him he's going to kill himself. He's going to kill himself. And he didn't. I was going to still do it. And they didn't put me into the psych ward. And it was that night after the psych ward that this could be a whole story in itself. We could do a whole story about this itself, but God opened my eyes.
Wow.
And I'll tell you the whole story next time, or however you want to do it. But
that'd be awesome.
It was the most amazing thing of learning about perspective of life and your mind's perspective. That instantaneous, I went from being, ready to shoot myself in the head to I wanted to live so bad.
Wow.
I'm talking instantaneous. I was literally in the shower. I fell in the shower on my knees, crying my eyes out hysterically. My wife came running in. She thought I had done something, like slit my wrist or something. And I was just the most amazing thing.
Wow.
So from there, they switched my meds because they said, oh, it's your meds. Your meds are bad. Put me on lithium and Seroquel and all these different psych meds and this and that.
Jeez.
And within the next 6 months, I started with MS symptoms. My hands were shaking real bad, eye problems, all these different MS symptoms. Again, my mother has MS too. So I know it's not really necessarily genetic, but, I didn't think much of it. Okay, I'm going to have MS someday. Sorry to get emotional.
Man. You're a real man, David. I just want to commend you on your vulnerability and opening up. My heart, it's crazy how different, we're on totally different paths, but how similar, they are in this life. And the system, that's why we got to restructure Western medicine as we know it in so many things, because it failed you. And
yes,
by design, it never has been on behalf of health and wellness. It's a business. And it's wild. Exactly. Is like that now finally the world, there's been doctors throughout since Western medicine's conception speaking out on sounding the alarm. This isn't good practice. They're indoctrinating doctors through the education systems and so many things. No one needed the warning, but finally there seems to be this grave shift.
Yep. Yeah. So after that, I was determined. My wife got me into this outpatient program, and I was out of work at the time. And my boss called me back to work, and my wife said, "No, you got to do this program. You got to do this for you. You can't do this for me. You can't do this for your mother, your father. You got to do this for you." And I did. I was determined. I was 240 at the time, and I was going to the gym every day, weightlifting, running. Got myself down to like 198 in that range, 195 to 200. I was really happy. Building muscle. Let's see, at like 36 years old, I ran a Tough Mudder. I don't know if you know what a Tough Mudder is.
Yeah.
I ran a Tough Mudder. I was like super, like with the Lyme's disease and everything, I thought I'd never be able to do something like that. And
Right.
I did it.
Wow.
So then we got to, I think I was 38 years old. My wife got pregnant, and I had gotten sick, sinus infection, respiratory, whatever it was. It was just something. And every time I got sick, I was always hoping I got antibiotics. I never knew I had Lyme's. I had a feeling I did, but I didn't know a lot about Lyme's back then.
Right.
And every time I got sick, if they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's a virus, you got to wait it out," I'm like, "Ugh." But anytime they said, "Oh, you got a respiratory infection, here's some amoxicillin," I got so excited because I always got better on the amoxicillin. Even my Lyme's disease got better. But again, I didn't know that. So I went there hoping that they'd give me something. And I told them, I said, "Look, I want to get on, just give me some amoxicillin because I know it will make me feel better. My wife is pregnant." And just like that, she goes, "Oh, she's pregnant? Do you have your Tdap shot?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "I don't get shots. I had a childhood friend who died from the flu shot, so I don't get shots." "Oh, you're not going to be allowed in the waiting in the delivery room when your wife's giving birth if you don't have this shot." And after almost 30 years, of not getting shots, just that instantaneous in my head, I want to be there in the room with my wife. I want to be there. Sure, give me the shot. And that's about the time when everything started going downhill for me. The Lyme started going downhill. The inflammation got worse. I started getting sicker often. And, I was eating very well at that point because my wife, just to backtrack a little bit, back in our 20s, late 20s, my wife was diagnosed with pre-diabetes. And my wife was like, "Nope, I'm not taking metformin. I see what it did to my family. I'm not doing this." And she went on this autoimmune protocol diet, AIP. And my wife is just an absolute saint. You should have her on your show, man. She is just a saint. I mean, she devotes her life to health, and she's really saved me big time.
Wow.
And so at that point, I was eating very healthy. My wife cooked very good meals, I mean, the whole 9 yards, but I was still going downhill. Had my son, greatest thing that ever happened to me, but I was still going downhill more and more and more. Week before Christmas, my wife got COVID. She's a teacher. And so I did everything I could to stay away because I know, the slightest cold affects me. I'm sure it does you too.
Yeah.
I did everything I could to not get the COVID. I wore a mask. She stayed in a separate room, everything I could, but I got it. Christmas Day, went upstairs, went into the bed, and I just felt tingling going down my neck, back of my neck, went down my arms, down my legs, and instantaneous, just like that, I got fasciculations in my calves and my feet. It was the creepiest thing. I'd never experienced anything like that. I still have them to this day. They're constant. It's like your muscles are contracting, and like when you look at your legs, it's like they're contracting, and it almost looks like worms crawling through your legs. It's the creepiest, most annoying. As I get like inflammation and stuff to this day, it gets worse. So like it's hard to sleep. And I noticed I had to pee really bad, a lot. Like every 3 minutes I was getting up to pee, which I was told the Lyme's was attacking my bladder at that point. So basically the Lyme's was trapped in my head. And that moment I got COVID, the tingling going down my spine was going through my central nervous system out into my body.
Wow.
Is the way that the doctors explain it.
It's so wild.
And,
wow. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, it's wild. I feel at this point for all the listeners to question things and it's wild because the masks, everything they told us didn't help us, right? And it's healthy to question things. To this day, I'm like, define COVID, clearly something. And we got to have these open discussions and we'll dive into this more and more on futuristic episodes. We obviously uncovered a lot of this in prior episodes, but there's something they're distracting us with to get to the root of the issue. But I, like you, there was a level of deterioration during that pandemic that hit me that I believe to this day I'm still trying to fight out of. And to really ask, and we need to get to the bottom of what it was. And it could be all sorts of things, the way they've ramped up things in our food, our water, the chemtrails, the 5G towers, biowarfare. There's a lot of things. And no one should be like, oh, that's all conspiratorial. It's like, well, they have yet to isolate COVID in the wild. If they haven't found it on a desk surface or out in an air particle, then it's like, what is it other than a constructed labelism for their pandemic? So
Yeah.
but there's something to it, and we need to get to the bottom of it, because then we'll have these breakthrough. But yeah, it's just something did happen, and I feel like physically it allowed the Lyme to run rampant and become more chronic. I feel like I actually met the chronic definition just before all of this, but this was the next level of chronic. And there's a lot that get stuck in that too to this day. So I think we're trying to get to the bottom of that on behalf of, for a lot of people. So yeah, continue.
Going on what you're saying, the whole COVID thing really irritated the shit out of me, because there was times, like if I went to the food store or something, I would wear a mask, and I had a lot of people who were very anti-mask or very anti this or anti that.
Right.
And they would lump me in with these people that, like, oh, you're with the fear mongering of the government. And I'm like, fuck you. If I get a cold, I get, massive inflammation, and like I get like flu-like feelings for a week,
anything.
I don't care what this thing is. I don't know what this is. I don't care what it is. I don't want to get it. I don't care if it's man-made. I don't care what it is. I have to be careful.
Right.
And it sucked because, like I said, I was stuck in between people who were, deathly afraid of this because the government tells you to be afraid of it.
Right.
And then I was stuck between these people that were, don't wear a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask because I'm not going to listen to them. And I'm right in the middle, like, all right, I don't believe these idiots, but I'm going to wear a mask because I'm protecting myself. So it was a very tricky time for me,
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. Like once again, it kind of just boils down to sourcing information. Now, anything coming from the bullhorn, the empire of lies, the same ones that told you a jab was safe and effective, that's now provenly murdered millions. Is like this. That same bullhorn was the same that pushed that mask narrative. So it's interesting when you source other information. There's a lot on it, like science. The simple fact that those masks measured in the millimeters when the actual viruses supposedly are in the nanometers, that size difference is like 1,000,000 times. So I've heard the analogy, by wearing one, it's essentially trying to stop mosquitoes coming in from your backyard with a chain link fence. But 1,000,000 times, like, you know what? It's actually, the chain links would be more so, they would be so large you could drive a semi through them. Like, that's what we're trying to do here. That's safe and effective. The one thing that I challenge people that still wear face diapers to this day is just like, hey, look, after 15 minutes of wearing that, go throw it under a microscope. Like, this simple test alone, you will never wear one again. 15 minutes, because you will see poop and have an expert next to you to identify what's on there. There's poop particles and bacteria and like mold spores, literally live crawly things. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to wear that again. So, and then to breathe it back, your own exhaust, like you'd never put a muffler on the exhaust of your vehicle, your engine would go to smoke pretty quick, Yeah. So there's a lot behind it. I just feel like it played. But my heart goes out to you. I get where you're coming from 100%, being in that vulnerable state, and you obviously were listening to some of your intuition there, where it was like, man, it's hard enough as it is. Like, that could put me over the edge, and I've been there, and that scares the shit out of me. And I could say that because It's the
And
same. Yeah.
that's kind of what it was. Like, I wasn't listening to the Democrats and I
Right.
wasn't listening to the Republicans. I was listening to myself. You know,
Yeah.
I paint cars for a living, so I wear a mask every day. So wearing a mask for me is no big deal.
Wow. Okay.
So
Yeah.
like all these people that were like, I can't wear this mask, I can't breathe. To me, I'm like, I wear this all day long.
All day
What's
long.
the problem?
Right.
So it really wasn't. So I was listening to myself, what I thought was
Right.
best. You know, if I went into a store and there was 10 people in the store, I'm not going to wear a mask. You know, I'll just whatever. But
You know what?
if I go into a store and there's 30 people around me, you know, I'm going to wear one.
Right. There's a well, the problem with that narrative that they were pushing, whether it be the mask is 6 foot safe, you know, all sorts of shenanigans. It was tyrannical. It was tyranny, and it never stops. You could see how it went from that to the needles in arms, and then it became the schedule, like every month, every few months, like come get your booster. Like if enough people caved, that would be the new future and vaccine, you know, cards, and it would just be horrific. We would have lost entirely our body autonomy and our God-given like genetic makeup, right?
Yeah.
Where sourcing the information right out the gate, what was beautiful was there were other effective ways of protection. And to this day, I sing ivermectin's praises. Even this last Christmas, as I was going through a lull with my Lyme flare up, I was around family members where every single one went down. Everyone that like wasn't sick at the moment, everyone went down other than me in my vulnerable state. And I attribute solely the microdosing of ivermectin. It's incredible. And that raises another question for us all. What is an antiparasitical doing, supposedly protecting us from viruses and bacteria? Like, it makes me think, is everything more so parasitical, but Western medicine started pushing bacteria and viruses in a whole different light so we couldn't effectively get to the root of the issues?
Yeah, true. Yep.
It's just healthy, like, think. So I'm very grateful for all this circus, because thank goodness we've come out on top to an extent where we have free speech platforms where we can still have enough information to discern for ourselves. We just need to open our eyes to use that discernment effectively. And that's the only challenge on these type of topics I ask for people to do, because by no means am I saying take my word for it. And that is a grave difference from that other bullhorn, because that bullhorn will say, this is truth, this is wrong, and they will eat their own as soon as they even question the narrative. And that becomes very telling. It's like, well, I can see you're very disguisingly projecting as though this is good, but so much of that has proven wrong. So in fact, their whole narrative is more conspiracy theory than what they're projecting is conspiracy. So it's just to open people's eyes in that sense. But I digress to dive more into so you clearly felt that you started deteriorating even further. Is this where it led to a diagnosis?
Yeah. So one other thing I want to touch on real quick, because we're talking about the jab.
Yes.
That's a sensitive subject for me too, because I'm talking about that because that led up to my COVID situation too. I lost a lot of friends to that. I mean, a lot of people, you know, really got on my case and called me a scumbag for not taking the jab. You know, and I would tell them my situation. I would tell them that I have a doctor's note that I got a vaccine injury and I'm not allowed to get it. I have a note to this day. And they said, you're supposed to do it for the better of the people.
Which doesn't even make sense. If it was effective and they got it, why do they need you to get it to protect them? Because they should be effectively protected. It's the most ludicrous. Yeah.
And my doctor, after I got COVID and all the ALS stuff started coming out, she said, thank God you didn't get that shot. She says, if you would have got that shot, you would have been one of the ones that would have died. She says, guaranteed you would have died.
Wow.
It irritates me how people are so judgmental, and they don't even, they're thinking about themselves, really. They say they're thinking about the better of the
Right.
people of the world. But they're thinking about themselves, what they believe. They're
Well,
not thinking about everybody.
it's interesting. My heart does go out to a lot of those individuals to an extent. To an extent. It pains me because at the end of the day, they're adults and what happened to their discernment. But they've been preyed upon. Literally under torture tactics. The pandemic literally checked almost every torturous tactic in the books, from isolation, from ramping up the fear porn, from so many things. The Fall of the Cabal series actually did a really good job as to exposing a lot of that, and it actually softened my heart to a lot of those individuals. But clearly there's not like we need, what's the word, vindication. Ooh, how do I vindication but there's a lot of those, like even extreme leftists or whatnot, really pro jab, jab Nazis essentially, that have ate that humble pie and said, you know what? I'm sorry. I was wrong.
Yeah.
You're right.
Exactly.
Statistically speaking, at this point, you clearly made the right decision. I made the wrong one. And I got to live with that. Like, and so many of them are applauding. However, we've been wired in such a self-serving, selfish, prideful, kind of entitled place where so many will not, to the day they die, eat that humble pie, will not reconcile with you as a friend. And no, because you aren't going to want to put a knife in them and twist it. And I told you. I personally would love to open with open arms, like, you know what? It's all okay. I'm just grateful to hear, for your own protection from here on out, that you won't cave to that tyranny, that we now can unite in strength and not allow this to ever take place again. Like, welcome, there, no animosity. But yeah, definitely an uphill battle there. My heart goes out to you, man. But I love how even the conversation's going, because it really is naturally, like, making it clear. We got 2 eyes and 2 ears. Do not lie to yourself and allow yourself to be deceived and manipulated, right?
Exactly.
So, where did
there?
Yeah.
So from there, obviously, I went to, the first person I called was actually a functional doctor. She put me right on ivermectin, and they put me on too high of a dose, which I think was an accident from the pharmacy. So I actually had a bad adverse reaction right away.
Oh, wow.
But in actuality, ivermectin saved my life. I'm still on ivermectin to this day. I take it when I get sick. I take it every single day, 18 milligrams. And I've had Herxheimer reactions just from ivermectin. Like you said, it works.
Right.
And I usually take it once a week, just as like I don't know the word, but just to continue keeping your body clean. But then I also saw my regular doctors, and those were that's where I went downhill, actually. This doctor sent me to this doctor, and this doctor sent me to this doctor. We don't know this doctor, this. So I was showing you.
Yeah.
This is my binder.
And that's over 2 years. That's
this is about, this is 2 years, but the majority of this paperwork is 18 months of traditional Western medicine doctors that I went to. I had 9 x-rays. I had 6 or 7 MRIs, a CAT scan, 2 EMGs.
Wow.
And I brought this out too, like I showed you. This is my pills that was given to me over these 18 months to use, because they had no idea.
Right.
Oh, and the kicker is, this is the kicker. I was prescribed this almost non-stop, prednisone, 4 milligrams, almost nonstop for 18 months because they didn't know. They thought it was post-COVID syndrome. And maybe this will work. We're not sure. Let's try this. Turns out prednisone steroids are the absolute worst thing you can give somebody with Lyme's disease.
Oh my gosh.
So I progressed to get worse and worse. I lost 28 pounds in the following year and of muscle.
Pull up that picture. Show them. The listeners are visual. Like, he had a healthy build on him. And this is just over. Wow.
This was me, before. This was pre-COVID. There I am.
Yeah.
Doing a Tough Mudder. And then this was me post-COVID. You could see my arms are skinny as a rail.
Yeah.
My fingers were skinny. My face was skinny. I lost everything. I lost it all in 1 year. 1 year.
Wow.
And on top of the ALS symptoms, I was still suffering from MS that I had had for, well over a decade at that point. I had what they called Parkinsonian syndrome, where my hands shook so bad. They were like this. I could barely hold a spoon until it was horrible.
Right.
So basically in February, I went for my first EMG, and the doctor, he said, he was a Chinese guy. He goes, he was the second neurologist I went to. I don't know. I have no idea. He goes, you have ALS. He says, but the EMG says you don't have ALS. He goes, I don't know. I've never seen this. So basically all the doctors, I had been to well over 24 doctors at that point, and every single one basically said, yes, you're dying, and there's nothing we can do for you. We have no idea what it is. It's not ALS, but we don't know what it is. Then I got mono. Following the EMG, I got mono because I probably worked myself up. I was so scared and lowered my immune system even worse. And then by May, I was still fighting. I had a 4-year-old at the time, and I was still fighting because I was like, I'm not going to give up. I kept picturing in my brain, this time next year, I'm going to be in a wheelchair just sitting in front of my TV, like not being able to move my arms and stuff. Typical ALS, aggression. And I kept fighting and fighting, but I got to be honest, I was starting to really, give up.
Lose hope.
This is it. There's nothing I could do.
Right.
So it was early June. I got out of the shower and I found a tick on me. Now I live in New Jersey, so ticks are very, very prevalent here. 1 in 3 ticks here has Lyme's disease. And it was in me. And I had a little red spot around it. So I pulled it out, threw it in the toilet, and I went right to the doctors. And he said, look, you got enough going on. I'm not even going to test you. Here's 6. I think he put me on 14 days of doxy at first. When I went to the pharmacy to pick up the doxy, my pharmacist assistant, she goes, have you ever been tested by an LLMD, a Lyme's literate medical doctor? I said, no.
Wow.
I thought I've had Lyme's disease for 20 years, but no, I never was. I've been tested before. 1 or 2 bands shows up on the LabCorp paperwork, but that doesn't qualify for CDC.
Right.
Bullshit.
Right. Nope. Not Lyme. Yeah. That's so defective. Yeah. The whole testing on, the what Western medicine resorts to is defective.
It totally is. Totally.
No.
So she gave me the number to her husband. He had the same stuff as me, and he was, 10 years clean. And I said, well, what's it going to hurt? It's $385 for the first visit, out of pocket, because nothing's covered.
Nothing. Yep.
Nothing. I've been on low dose naltrexone. All my medicines that I'm on, except for amoxicillin, nothing's covered. So, and it's all FDA approved because it doesn't work, even though I am physical proof and I have blood work to pack, all my things.
They'll manipulate testing to come up with those conclusions because they don't want solutions. It wouldn't be a good business model. People.
Exactly.
And there's nothing conspiratorial about it. Like, you could see this, and it's not just in Lyme. You could look at it with cancer and diabetes and all these epidemics, all of them. Same conclusion. Yeah.
Veering off of what I'm talking about, exactly what you're talking about. I just watched this thing on YouTube about the big farm and everything, and putting people on Klonopin and Ativan and lorazepam and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And they said back when Xanax, which was the first anti-anxiety to come out, when it first came out, they did massive research. And they showed that over a 4-month period with the placebo, people got less anxious. But after the 4 months of being on Xanax, you actually got more anxious than the people on the placebos.
Right.
So they took that 4 months and they said, everything's good. Even though they knew well past that, you actually got way worse anxiety and everything got worse.
Wow.
And Germany was the first one to say, no, we don't want this. This is not good for our people. But America was like, we'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Oh my gosh.
Commercials coming out, and it's just like, it was crazy. It's all money.
Yeah.
It's all money. So, went to the doctor. He said, I guarantee you have Lyme's. He says, not only do you have Lyme's, he says, I guarantee you've had it since you were 10 years old, at least. He says, you probably got it from birth. He says, you might have gotten it from your mother. He says, your mother has MS. He
With
says,
all the symptoms you've
common.
said. Yeah. That the whole time I've been like wondering and wanting to ask, has your mother been tested?
She has not yet.
She needs to get into
get tested,
that Lyme literate doctor ASAP, because to focus on the root of the issues, obviously is just so important, and the sooner versus later too, because it just becomes that much harder to freaking eradicate. But
exactly.
Yeah, that's a thing from mother to son. Like, it's pretty much guaranteed if she had it, then you just have had it since birth. We just, our natural God-given immune system is so resilient. It pretty much fights it off pretty well, depending on your co-infections. But as life continues and stressful situations arise and you bonk your head and, like you slowly, in age even, like your metabolism and immune system goes down and it starts running more and more rampant. And then pandemics, like other biowarfare and things, whatever, to be determined, take place that devastate us.
Yeah. So around age 10, when my symptoms came out, that's when my parents moved from my childhood home. And that's when my parents started to get worse in their marriage. So like you said, it was a psychological thing that brought my immune system down. And that's when the Lyme was able to come out. So the doctor took the tests, and within like 2-3 days, he called me, and I'd never forget it. I was at work, and he said, sure enough, he says, you have 5 bands, and 2 of them are actually active. He says, you qualify with the 5 bands and the 2 active. He says, you qualify for CDC even qualifications. He says, that's very hard. He says, you qualify. He says, you're one of my longest patients, who's had it the longest. He says, this is just incredible. He says, I'm going to fix you. I burst out crying like a baby, man. Right. I was crying so hard. Like, it was the first time in my life I had some kind of an answer.
Can we give this doctor a shout out, or his clinic? If you'd rather, we might could add that in to the comments section.
Yeah, we could do
later.
That. So I'm hesitant because he doesn't take new patients. And I've found out that on the Lyme's pages, you kind of have to be very careful because they get their license stripped from them very easily.
Well, maybe he'd have referrals or something. So it'd be nice for us to get to the bottom of that so people have direct, because there might be someone, as you share this around, in that immediate area. It just to help source.
When people ask me on the Lyme's pages about my doctors, I'd have no problem messaging them and talking to them one-on-one, especially if they're from the area. But I think live broadcasting we're broadcasting it to the world, and we don't know who's listening, kind of thing.
It does make sense. So, yeah, I get that. I respect that.
We could have people listening right now that are not our friends, or they're actually our enemies and trying to find things against us. So
wow, no, I get it. So this leads to the shift within you. You finally start getting life breathed in back into you.
It not only brought life physically, but mentally, in the sense of, since 10 years old, sitting on that table and having a psychiatrist, or having my primary doctor saying that I need to go to a psychiatrist,
Right.
you just feel your whole life you're fucked up in the head.
Yeah.
And then you have people who are healthy around you, not to, I'll just leave it at this. People around you who are in your daily life that, why are you sick? I have the same illness as you and I'm still up doing things. Why are you in bed for 7 days?
Right.
They don't understand. And then it really beats you down mentally to think that there's something really wrong with you. And when you get that clarification of, no, there really is something wrong with you, it's like, damn.
Beyond validating, beyond.
Exactly.
Like, you went over 18 years on psychiatric meds, right?
Yep.
And it was all you. It was all in your head. 18 years of that. Your whole life struggling, but 18 years on psych meds. And then they missed the root of the issue, and it just became harder. That even leads into kind of depressive think, an attempt of suicide. It is a miracle you're with us, because I know how hard that gets. The whole world, in a way, is not understanding and against you in a way. And then naturally, let's just be frank. This doctor focused on the root of the issue. Through some basic things, you gain health and wellness to where you're getting off all these psychiatric meds of 18 years. And I'm looking at a very functional, bright man right here in front of me, David. It blows my mind. If that isn't definitive proof right there that it was not you, it was not in your head, I don't know what is. And there's no one in your life that could make all them years right. As nice as it would be to hear, and that's a problem. That's a big character defect we all have, where, I don't know, pride and ego, man. It's crazy. They're not going to be like,
exactly,
David, my poor David, whether it's any loved one, any of your buddies growing up. Bro, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I clearly made it harder for you. How can I even make that right? I'm sorry, and just give you dabs or a bro hug. There's nothing. That's just really tough. But in another light, we don't necessarily need that, because it is what it is. And we can take everything we've experienced and literally let it strengthen us. And we could gain that time back by helping others, right? And bring the awareness to this. Do everything we can to help others. But man, that just hits hard. And
going on what you said, you want validation from people, man, I'm sorry, like you said, hey, I didn't know you were going through that, or, I'm sorry I treated you that way all those years. I didn't realize you were really sick. But, something I've realized in the past couple months, I used to watch as a child. I was very skinny. I was a very puny little kid. And I used to watch, Sylvester Stallone movies and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. And you just want to be that superhero, that guy that's just so strong and tough. And I've realized in the past 3 to 4 months, I am that guy.
Yeah.
I don't have his muscles and I don't have the big giant machine gun, but I'm that guy. I'm just as strong as him. I've done things that are just, most people couldn't do,
Right.
I'm my own hero,
There's a reason as to people that struggle with this. There's such a very sad statistic where it leads to suicide. That's why in the Lyme community, there's that saying that it's not necessarily the disease that will kill you. It can. It just more so
Yeah,
makes you wish you were dead. Like, that is
exactly.
horrific. I applaud you. You are a Lyme warrior, the very definition of a Lyme warrior. And now that you're advocating on behalf of others, man, I applaud you, David. Like, you are
Thanks, man.
stronger than you know.
I'm trying my hardest not to cry this most of this time, man. It's a lot, you know. It's been a lot.
Yeah. So what is it that led to some of your breakthroughs? Like, what meds, like what protocol, food, herbs?
So I just started eating better and better. I follow pretty close to my wife. Like I said, she does autoimmune protocol diet, very strict. No soy, no gluten, no dairy, no peanuts. Um, I will eat some of that stuff sometimes. I notice that if I can eat gluten, we'll say, and I'm fine. But if I eat it too much, repetitively, or if I have a hamburger every day with a roll for a week, I start to feel inflammation or more brain fog or stuff like that. So I eat it in moderation. You know, I eat an autoimmune protocol, paleo, I guess you want to call it something similar to that.
Mm.
I backtracking a couple of years, I started seeing a psychotherapist. I had seen psychiatrists before. They never did anything for me, never helped me. So I figured I'd give this a try. It's a totally different realm of that we could have a whole session on this. It's a government thing. But basically the person who invented it, if you want to say, was Sigmund Freud and Wilhelm Reich. And during, the Nazi, they both basically split from Germany. Wilhelm Reich came here and basically, there's a whole book about it, but Big Farm and the insurance companies and the government didn't like his teachings because it got to the root of psychiatric problems.
Mm.
And they put him in prison, burned all his books, and he literally died in prison.
Wow.
But him and Sigmund Freud had been teaching other people, so now it has scattered out, and there are some psychotherapists out there. But it's basically, if you go to a psychiatrist, you're sitting at a chair and it's just like, so tell me about how your week was. Tell me about your blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Psychotherapy is more delving into getting the physical, emotional trauma out of your body. So you're doing mat work, you're laying on the mat and you're physically getting the emotions out. You might not even remember anything, but you're getting that. It's the most amazing thing.
Wow.
So when I went there, she asked me, what are your goals? And I said, at that point, when I first started, he was only one, my son. And I said, I want my son to grow up with a happy, emotional, stable daddy.
Mm.
And I said, my other goal, I said, it's probably not attainable, is I'd love to get off my psych meds because it's poison. I mean, It destroyed my liver, it destroyed my kidneys.
Wow.
I have problems from both of them now. And she says, we're going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But 4 years later, I can honestly say I have a very, very happy, emotionally well-rounded son, and he's 5 now.
Man.
And I'm off my psych meds. So going on with that, the medicines that helped, the food was like a paleo. Psychotherapy was a huge part of my recovery, huge part, because, trapped emotions cause any illness to progress. I don't care if it's a cancer or whatever. You have trapped emotions in your body.
Yes.
It affects your immune system.
Right.
So it can activate even cancers, like I said.
Yes.
Low dose naltrexone was a huge part for me. It took 6 to 8 weeks for it to really start to work, but I mean, I was chronically inflamed for like my entire life.
Yeah, that knocks out inflammation, right? Low dose.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I barely get any inflammation anymore. It's not FDA approved. It doesn't work.
Right. Oh my gosh. Sounds like
another thing I take.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's good. It sounds like we both have doctors in the know because I've been
Yeah.
on it now too.
So I take a lot of vitamins. Obviously, I take the ivermectin. Uh, Another strange drug that I take, it's called low-dose sildenafil. It's sildenafil in its normal form is like a Viagra. It's an erectile dysfunction medicine. But taken as a low dose, there's a lot of research that found, again, it's not FDA approved, but it helps with blood flow, which helps brain fog, helps your brain, helps small tissue damage. It helps your organs. It helps microclots. And honestly, I mean, when I stop taking it, my brain fog comes back. So,
Really?
in
What?
my
How do
opinion,
you
that's a
spell
huge
that
step.
one?
Low dose,
Yeah.
just like low dose naltrexone. So it's low dose sildenafil. SILDENFIL. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell it.
Okay. I want to just bring that up and ask. Yeah. Okay.
So I also did a lot of things like physical therapy, chiropractor, acupuncture, a lot of detox baths, weekly, twice a week, stuff like that. I continued exercising even when I was at my worst. When I didn't know what was going on, I still exercised because it's the best thing for you.
Isn't it weird? It's like in our subconscious. Like you were even doing that Tough Mudder in the midst of things. And I've done similar things. It's like I knew subconsciously if I ever just gave that up, that might as well just end it now. That kept us somewhat in this fight. Wow.
Seriously, it totally 100%. To this day, like I have a gym in my basement, like just some stuff down there, and like you go down there and you just feel better when you're done. I know I understand the science behind it, the endorphins and the dopamine. I understand, but there's something different about it for somebody who has a chronic illness.
Yeah.
It just keeps you motivated and going.
Yeah.
So then from there, I had a 9-day Herxheimer. He put me on amoxicillin 875 twice a day, simple drug, plus $27 if you buy it out of pocket for the entire month for 60 pills, cheapest thing in the world. Doctors before that, all these other pills that I just showed you, they wanted to put me on Humira, which was $7,000. It's absurd.
Right.
I had a 9-day Herxheimer reaction, which was just absolutely horrendous. I thought I was getting worse, obviously, but I had never heard of Herxheimer reaction before that.
Me too.
I think it's called a Jarvis Herxheimer or something like that. And then, so by this time we're talking, this is like July. And then I started feeling a little better. My ALS started getting better. MS started getting a little better. But then in August, I got really, really bad neuropathy. I mean, I could barely walk. My feet hurt. My legs hurt. The pain was so incredibly bad.
Wow.
And I went to my third neurologist at this point. She's a traditional Western medicine neurologist, but my Lyme literate doctor suggested her. He says, I know her. She's really good. She'll work with you. Went into her office. I explained everything to her, showed her all my paperwork. And I'll never forget. She goes, I want to stop you. I want to stop you right now. Because I was like just going over everything. She goes, I want to tell you that I believe you.
Wow.
And man, I just burst out crying. Like, you don't hear that from a doctor. You don't ever hear that. Like,
wow.
Doctors are always better than you. They went to school longer than you. They know more than you because they're books. And she's just like, I believe you. And to hear those words are just hit you to your core.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So the first thing she said was, you've been off your antidepressants now for over 2 years. She says, all you're on is lithium for your psychiatric problems. She goes, I think your lithium is causing part of your MS symptoms. And she says, being you're off your antidepressants and you're doing phenomenal mentally, she says, I'm not telling you what to do. She says, but I think it's to your best interest to start weaning off the lithium. Sorry, I'm getting like shaky because just a lot of emotions.
You're good, David.
So I started weaning off the lithium immediately and continued on the amoxicillin. And throughout the month of September, my neuropathy started getting better. And when I finally stopped taking the lithium in mid-October, my hands, I mean, I'm shaking right now just because of the emotions, but I mean, my hands before were like this.
Right.
And now, I mean, all the MS symptoms literally went away between the Lyme treatment and getting off the psych meds.
Hallelujah.
I went back on November 5th to that neurologist. She gave me a second EMG. The first EMG I had was in February, and the doctor did 42 needles in me. And I don't know if you ever had an EMG, but it's not fun. We'll put it that way. The first one I had was just they put a probe, you're conducting electricity through your body to test the conductive measures of your nerves in your body. So they actually have to put a positive and a negative, and it connects it through your body. So they're sending electricity through your nerves, and it's not fun. But it wasn't really painful back in February. It was just not fun. So back in November, when I went back for my second EMG with this doctor, she was on her sixth needle, and it was the most unbelievable pain. It was just so incredibly, just not fun and painful. And I said to her, she's like, "Are you all right?" Because I was like lifting off the table. I go, "I don't know how many more of these you could do." I said, "The last guy did 42. I said, "I don't think I can make it through 42. And she goes, "I'm going to do one more." And she goes, "You're done." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I've never seen anything like this." She says, "You actually have nerve rejuvenation." She says, "Your nerves were dying." And she says, "You have rejuvenation of the nerves." She says, "I'm absolutely amazed." She says, "I'm only going to do one more," because she says, this is amazing. And, man, it was, it's crazy to go from that February EMG and the doctor saying, "We have no idea what's wrong with you." Oh, going back to that doctor who told me he didn't know what's wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. When I got my Lyme's diagnosis, I brought it to him and I said, "Hey, I got Lyme's disease. Maybe you can work with this." He looks at it, he throws it back at me, and he goes, "No such thing. Stupid.
Wow.
No such thing as chronic Lyme's." The next time I went back to him, I had seen on the ALS Institute website, you could look this up, ALS Institute website, I think it's .org. On their website, on their main page, it says, any doctor who suspects that any patient has ALS should first be tested for Lyme's disease, because Lyme's disease mimics hundreds and hundreds of things, especially ALS and MS. Those are the two main neurological symptoms.
Right.
So I showed him that. And he says, no. He says, "You're reading too much on the computer." He says, "You need to go back on your psych meds, your antidepressants. You're thinking too much."
Gosh.
This is exactly what I did to him. I was so angry.
Put him out of work.
But I pointed right at him. I said, "Fuck you, motherfucker." I said, "I took 2 years to get off my psych meds. I'm not going back on them." Now, I was still on my lithium at that point, but he was telling me to go back on my antidepressants because I was psychotic in his mind.
Wow.
So anyway, since November, it's a roller coaster ride. It's probably going to be for the rest of my life.
Right.
Just like you, same thing. We're never going to be healed. There's no such thing as healed. But I mean, it was hard for me to walk. I mean, just standing up from my chair, I'd fall over. Like I said, I couldn't eat barely with a spoon or a fork sometimes. My vision was horrific, like all these different things. I had over 30 symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And to go from that to where I'm sitting in front of you right now, no psych meds, I take 3 medicines now. I showed you that big bin of medicines they had me on. Yeah. I take 3 medicines, low-dose sildenafil, low-dose naltrexone, and amoxicillin. That's all I take. Wow. And then I take some vitamins. my wife works for a company that sells holistic vitamins, and they're phenomenal. I think one of the biggest things is healing your gut health, and especially for
Yes.
somebody like me who on amoxicillin constantly, you got to be very diligent with keeping up on your gut. I mean, amoxicillin, I mean, it's no secret that, I mean, it destroys your gut. Any antibiotic.
I read the other day. Oh man, I'm such a chimp. I could be I believe this study was attributing the brain producing only 10% of the body's, I believe, serotonin, and the gut produced the rest.
Yes. I just heard that too. Yes.
It's wild how so many doctors and people actually, with the biggest breakthroughs from people like us or cancer patients, and start focusing on the gut and these other things. It's wild. It's wild. Like even Dana White, the owner UFC, like it's through like Gary Brecka and all these nutritionists. Like it's just, thank goodness we're getting actual breakthroughs. I believe things have been shelved and withheld from us. People have been suicided. People have been bought out. All these years, we've had this tyrannical freaking medical industrial complex working against us. And like they can't, luckily with the free speech platforms, control the narratives. So it's getting out. And that's a beautiful thing.
What I don't understand is, don't quote me on exactly what I'm saying, but I've watched a lot of self-help videos and learning about everything. I think it was the ancient Egyptians who were way ahead of their time with a lot of their medical advances and stuff. I mean, just way ahead of their time. But they were the ones that basically thought your gut was part of your brain system. And they really weren't far off. Is why can't our modern doctors why can't they push more on gut health and stuff? They don't really talk about that much.
Because the indoctrination's so profound, just like those individuals that have been wired, that the writing's on the wall and they can't come say they're sorry. And they broke a 15, 20, 30, 40 year relationship with you because you weren't getting the thing that they got that was supposed to protect them. It's the same thing. This pride and ego, the indoctrination of this doctor, the one that was like trying to get you back on psych meds after breakthroughs. He should have been like pulling out his notepad. Tell me what you did, like in writing and practicing medicine. That guy's in a normal world, through the reviews, like his license should be revoked because he's no longer practicing medicine. He's drank the Kool-Aid. He's so prideful. He's one of those that you forget to say doctor, he's gonna correct you real quick. You just say his name, last name or something without that doctor. He's, just wow.
That's the thing, like I put a lot of stuff up on Facebook, about my story, and it sucks because I think a lot of people think I'm putting doctors down in general, and it's not all doctors. Like I said, my neurologist is a traditional Western, but she's open-minded.
Yes. Good point.
Medicine and, all of that stuff is science. Yeah. And science, there really is no ending to learning. I mean, there is no, it's just continual learning. So that's what science means. It's like, and you have these doctors who go to college and what they read in the book is it. And that's for the rest of their life. That's it. Those are the doctors that are a problem. Yeah. But there are some doctors, even traditional Western medicine, there are some doctors that I have encountered. I've encountered over 30 doctors. And, there's some that are out there and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Yeah. I'm going to have to look into that. Low-dose naltrexone? Really? Wow. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to, those are the doctors that are going to make a difference.
Right. Wow. David.
And that's why you got to get your story out. And this is what we were talking about before. Like, you got to push. Like, I see so much on these Lyme pages that these people, we got to do something about this. We got to do, but they don't do anything. It's like,
yes,
get out there. I've had my fight. I've literally had my fight with the CDC. I mean,
yes,
through email, through phone conversations back and forth with a supervisor, like, get your voice heard. Get your voice heard, whatever it has to do. Like, you contacted me on this, and I'm like, this is my first time ever doing this. I'm scared shitless, but this is what we got to do,
Let's dive into that just a bit, because you actually came out with an outcome that should be enlightening, hope, shine some hope, and even more calls to action, not just for the whole community, but even myself and our platform. How we effectively want to have that difference. And by reaching out to the CDC, whether or not it has the outcome you had or not, kind of irrelevant, because we could gather that information, expose it, ramp up that pressure, and start just reconstructing everything. So you reached out to the CDC. They ended up setting you up with some type of advocate or something.
Okay, so around September, October, I started my fight with the CDC. I didn't have anything to lose. I was like, I'm not going to let my son go through this. I'm not going to let other kids go through what I went through sitting on a table at 10 years old. That's nonsense.
Right.
So I started reaching out to them. It was a back and forth with one of the supervisors. Then we started emailing and blah, blah, blah. I was extremely forthright with what I had to say. Didn't curse. I wasn't, I'm going to fucking kill you. Nothing like that. That kind of stuff isn't going to get you anywhere,
Right.
I'm going to come there and burn your building down. Like, what is that going to do? But I was very forthright in the sense of, like,
legal.
This is only 2 years, buddy. I have 32 years worth of this paperwork proving
yes,
that you fucked up.
Yes.
And I threatened them with lawsuits. I threatened them with anything I had to do. And within that week of my final talking with them, because they just finally cut me off of talking, it was back and forth for about a month.
Wow.
And within that week, after talking to them the final time, I got a phone call from Horizon, my health insurance. And it was this lady, and she's like, I'm a case manager. I'm your case manager. The case manager? The hell, the case manager? She goes, well, we get assigned to certain people every now and then to help them out, blah, blah, blah. We're going to help you out. She started offering me, sending me all these emails about, like, memberships that they were going to give me and free food and, like, all these different things. I'm like, what is this all about?
No.
So I went back to my LLMD and I told him about it. He's like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. They give you a case manager?
Wow.
He goes, this is great. He goes, they never give people case managers unless there's something really big involved.
Wow.
He goes, you did something. What did you do? I said, well, I've been going back and forth with CDC for a month. He goes, yes, this is great. He says, this is awesome. This is what we need. So within, like I said, about another week or two after that, the CDC actually changed their profile of how they view chronic Lyme's disease. Before that, there was no such thing as chronic
right.
Lyme. It didn't exist, period.
They fought that narrative.
Now they acknowledge it, but the way they worded it, it still benefits them, if you want to put it that way. So they're acknowledging our hurt and they're acknowledging our pain, but it still benefits them. And that's a whole, you understand that story, and there's a whole story behind that with money and everything.
Right.
But so this case manager, she bent over backwards to help me in any way she could. And if the final outcome was, basically, Lyme literate doctors are not covered, period, basically at all. You
right.
pay out of pocket for that shit.
Right.
And I told her, I said, look, as of this point, I know why you've contacted me. I said, it's because I contacted the CDC, and she just, no comment, didn't say anything. I said, I'm serious about a lawsuit. I said, I have 32 years worth of paperwork and stuff. I said, I just want to fix this problem, and I don't want other kids, parents, adults, whatever, to go through this. I said, I've lost $70,000 in the past 2 years, sorry. I said, all I'm asking from you guys is you pay for my Lyme's disease doctor payments. I said, that's all I'm asking for. And sure enough, they paid for them.
Wow.
Like I said, it wasn't the full amount, but we'll say it was $3,000 that I've had out of pocket roughly. I'm just throwing a number. They paid about $2,800 of it. So, I mean, my Lyme's doctor said that is just completely unheard of.
Right.
I mean, so the point of why you brought this up and I brought it up is anybody listening to this is make your voice heard, because it will be heard. And what's that saying? The squeaky wheel gets
the grease.
The oil.
Yeah.
The grease.
Guy, wow. I love it. David here took action. Personally benefited. Undoubtedly. Like he's too humble over here. Undoubtedly, by ramping up that pressure, clearly had an impact as to even acknowledging this big corp acknowledging chronic associated with this horrific disease over decades of suppression and, you know, trying to just sweep things under the rug. And we know it's no secret as we connect the dots as to the origins. This came, in my eyes, undeniably from a bioweapons lab. And that's where we need, if this is left just to those that become afflicted, we're so, by design, wrapped up in our own illness and dysfunction, we can't effectively fight our wellness program in the current state of everything and up the awareness of everything. So if we only focus on this as we get afflicted, we're forever dogs chasing its tail, and we'll be lucky to bring up the awareness necessary to up the testing, the diagnosing, the treatment protocols, the insurance, coverage. But then again, on this whole other arena, we're not even moving the ball at all, where biowarfare is a grave threat. So we must somehow slap upside the head like the healthy to an extent where they champion this narrative and realize the grave threat it is to their children, their direct futures. We can't afford to wait till we ourselves become afflicted to champion this narrative. We must start reaching out. There's documentary after documentary, the quiet epidemic or silent pandemic. There's the monster inside me. So many where, and on so many topics where they try going in to the CDC, FDA, all these things and seeking answers, and they go silent. It's just, it becomes so telling. And it isn't collectively when we take these steps, could you imagine the impact? You're having personally a direct impact that's helped you and helped the whole community. We onboard more of us that are ill with steps of action like that, but also the healthy guys. That's how we turn this freaking ship around. That's how we get solutions to these horrific issues. Because dare I say, left unchecked, Lyme disease is nothing compared to what they have coming down the pipe. And it isn't some sky is falling. They've said it themselves. They tried to kill everyone. Are you kidding me? Bill Gates, 2007, colorfully talked about Depop and said, and wrapping a pretty bow on it by stating we could achieve this through vaccinations. Yeah. Guys, there's proof upon proof. What's taken place, and we just got to unite and be excited to seize the opportunities we can just to ensure a brighter future. Wow.
Exactly.
How can we help you, brother?
I think the best way to help me is what we were just talking about.
Okay.
Voice yourself, because I don't want my son to go through this.
Right.
I don't want any of my other loved ones. I don't want you to go, your kids or your family, or I don't want anybody like, that's the best. I've lost a lot of money. I've lost tons of people, just people that just didn't want to deal with my bullshit of being sick. And, my own father doesn't talk to me anymore. I've lost a lot. The thing that could help me, sure, money would help me. I have nothing. I don't have any money. I'm broke, but fix this. Voice yourself, voice your opinion, voice what happened to you. Scream to the mountains.
Right. Well,
that will help me.
I'd like to get some things. However we can show up and help you, even futuristically. Personally, it'd be great to stay in touch and put our heads together, see what we can come up with. There's a lot of other amazing, like Wendy's going to be coming back on soon. She's doing a lot for the Lyme community.
Okay.
They're doing big fundraiser events. There's all sorts of things. So hopefully my function can get a little more resilient to help connect some of these dots and move this ball more effectively down the field. But well,
like I said, I'm still on a roller coaster.
Yes.
Just like you, day to day. I don't know if I'm going to have brain fog. I don't know if I'm going to be in bed. I don't know if I'm going to be super good and running around outside with my son. I don't know. Every day is different. But
right.
No matter what goes on, I'm ready to fight.
100%.
I'm ready to take this 100% all the way to the end. Well, they took 3/4 of my life, and that's not okay for me.
Well, you could get that back tenfold through helping others, undoubtedly. And that's my prayer, that we can do just that. That being
Definitely.
said, we've been there. We've been knocking on death's door in those moments. We've lived those dark moments that we wouldn't wish upon anybody. And do you have any tools, if someone's listening, whether it's Lyme disease or anything, that's fighting that depressive, suicidal monster within inside themselves, where seemingly no one's hearing them, there's no way out? Like, can you kind of draw back into those moments and what helped you get through some of your darkest moments?
Definitely God. God saved me many times. This is a tough question because there was a lot of times where you just felt empty. You felt like there was nothing. But I guess the best thing for anybody watching this right now who is in that dark, dark place, going on what my neurologist said to me, I believe you.
Right.
We believe you.
Wow.
We're here. We're speaking. I don't know how many people are going to see this. I don't know if 3 people are going to see it or 3 million people. I'm here as your voice. You're here as our voice. We believe you.
Wow.
And there's many, many Facebook pages now. When I was 10 years old, Facebook didn't exist.
Right.
We had encyclopedias. We didn't even have really internet back then. So we didn't have the support groups we had now. There's so many different support groups. There's so many Facebook pages for Lyme's co-infections, Lyme's there's the one ALS/MS/transverse myelite TM was Lyme's disease. There's so many different sites. Just type in Lyme's disease and you'll find what you need. And there's tens of thousands of people who are experiencing the exact same thing as you.
Yeah.
And back when you and I were kids, we were alone, so there's so many more resources now. All this stuff is being brought out. It's just, the only other thing I could say is psychotherapy saved my life. It's just a phenomenal thing. It's like, again, we could have a whole nother session on psychotherapy alone, and seek it out. It really, It's not for the faint of heart, though. It really is not for the faint of heart. I mean, you got to really be dedicated. I mean, I had 2 complete total mental breakdowns while doing it. I
Wow.
mean, like to where I was going to kill myself, and I didn't even know I was going to kill myself. It's very intense, but the relief you feel afterwards is like nothing you can really describe.
Wow.
I mean, I used to be so uptight as a person, anxious, depressed. I mean, just constantly worrying about where money was going to come from, or if a bomb was going to go off, or volcanoes, or if the deer outside, like constant, every single thing was a problem. What I'm eating was a problem. Now I sit at the dinner table sometimes and I'm just sitting there, like just eating. And I'm just like this. And my wife will sit across the table. She's like, "What's wrong? Something's wrong. You're so quiet." I'm like, "I'm just peaceful. Like I'm just existing. Like this is so weird for me." Like, I mean, I had like so many different problems, like ADHD and ADD, and like I was so in my own little world. Like I wouldn't even be able to have a conversation with you. Like
Right.
I would only catch like 10% of what you're saying. I'm hearing everything you're saying now.
Wow.
But years ago, before psychotherapy, I would only caught like 10, 15% of what you're saying. And then I'd be thinking about all kinds of different things.
Wow.
Now I can focus. I can focus and I can enjoy life. I
Wow.
really can. I remember it was probably about, I'm bad with time because my brain is so messed up. But within the
Same.
past 3 to 6 months, I went out to dinner with my wife once and we were sitting there and she was talking to me and I was just like, holy shit, like I'm actually having a conversation with my wife. I've been married to her for, over 20 years. And like, I'm sitting here actually engaging in a real conversation with my wife and understanding what she's saying. Like
Wow.
I would be hearing the people around me clanking the spoons and like the person in the back yelling food was ready, or person sloshing around food in their mouth. Like all these different things I was so,
Present.
yeah, at that point I was so present. It was such a surreal feeling. It was so incredible.
And that's what the outward, because I mean, looking at you before and now, you wouldn't even know the the impacts that it's having internally. You're not present. It's like you're walking around in a kind of out of body experience, fight or flight, kind of just triggering.
Yep.
It's just you're all spooled up, just could blow at any moment. So it's almost like, I like how we touched on, and it was beautiful where like we hear you. So that type of validation. So anyone, let's speak a bit to anyone that may be listening that has been dealing with someone with, suicidal tendencies or depressive, like to show up, to actually tap more into seeking to understand that individual on a level of just not, I find that excruciatingly like weak stance to take. Just chalking something up is like, oh, you're just mental, you're psychotic, like you just need help. Like that's just an excuse for you not to put in the time, effort, energy, love, seeking to understand, trying to find solutions for this individual in your life you freaking love. Like you got to show up for them and be present and be like, you know what? I know naturally. I can feel your energy. I can feel your spirit. You are a strong individual. You've been given a challenge, like spiritually, everything, like a tougher challenge than those around you, and they're not getting it, and they're putting it out to be you the problem. I believe you. I see you, and clearly, like, this doesn't run in your genes. You look at the brother or the sister or the parent or the uncle or someone that's successful or active and, respected. It's like, clearly this isn't you. Clearly there's something else here we have yet to identify. There's something else. Could we go on that journey a bit together? Could we try some things? Could we encompass? Because there's a whole circle of things, from that emotional, spiritual, physical, talk, like from nutritional, nutrients, balancing, hormonal, stress, and also disease, right? And let's just start going around and around till we start finding these solutions, because this isn't you. There's something else impacting that's taking you. And that alone could breathe insane light and encouragement to this individual, mustering up like enough to even be honest with the person in the mirror. I mean, there's subtle little challenges we could have, because for me, that shift happened. It was between me and God, and it was between me and the reflection facing back in the mirror. And I just had to ask myself, after head traumas and, tough life experience, like, challenge that person facing back in that mirror. Do you value this existence? And that inevitably led to and then a resounding yes. And then it just shifted into, well, I knew what that meant. I had to cut out the alcohol and all these things I was resorting to escape the torment of everything happening and my inability to cope and deal and hone in, and just very tough road that led to more understanding. And then luckily the diagnosis. No one wants the diagnosis, but it gives you a direction, gives you something to hone in on. So we need to show up for those in this place. We can't afford to. We've become the most suicidal generation in human history. And my heart goes out to those individuals that are dealing with that, because it's a tough freaking thing.
So every time I try to fix myself in the past, in my teens and 20s, when I was hurting people and whatever, I always did it for them. And it's going on what you said about looking in the mirror and, doing it for you. And after my suicide attempt, one of the things I learned in my class was go home, look in the mirror, and tell yourself that you love yourself. You're a great guy. You love yourself. And I went home and I tried to say it, and the words just wouldn't come out of my mouth. And I looked at myself, and I remember muttering real lightly, but I meant it. I said, "You're not that bad of a person." And I just broke out crying, because that was the first time I realized, I'm a good person. I always was a good person, but it's just I'm afflicted with all these different things that destroyed my life. And that's when I realized I had to do it for me. Because even to this day, I have a 5-year-old son. Theoretically, that's your number one. You're supposed to protect your son. That's your number one. Make sure he's okay. But I always tell my wife, no, I'm number one. Because if I'm not okay, how am I going to make him okay? So you have to love yourself, and you have to find something about yourself that you feel comfortable with, and then do it for you. Whatever it is, like you said, alcohol, drugs, just being unhappy, depression, suicidal thoughts, being mean to people, whatever it is that you want to change, you got to do it for you.
Right.
It's bad. And I think with our illness, like the first part you were talking about just now, validating and talking, understanding each other. One thing me and my wife have a hard time with is we've struggled with infertility problems. We tried to have our son for over 10 years. And when you talk about that kind of stuff, infertility, it's such a, I can't remember the word that I want to use, but it's like voodoo. You don't talk about that, Same with Lyme's disease or mental illness, depression, anxiety, suicide. Somebody's suicidal. You don't talk about that. But when somebody has cancer, you get presents, people bringing you gifts, and let me make you dinner. Let me drive you to your appointments. I'm not putting anybody down who has cancer. I've lost people. My father-in-law just died a couple of years ago. I have nothing against people who had cancer.
Right.
It's a mindset kind of thing. And I think people are not ready to deal with the emotions of certain things that they can't grasp or understand. And I think it goes back to part of what I've learned about psychotherapy is so as a person, it's kind of like a teapot or a pressure pot where the emotions build up in your body, and they build and they build and they build. And eventually they have nowhere to go. These are physical emotions I'm talking about.
Right.
They're stuck inside your limbic system and your central nervous system, your muscles, everywhere, your organs, and they don't know where to go. And that's when you have your outbursts, you scream at people, you just look like a lunatic in a store, or that's when you become suicidal because you just can't take it anymore.
Right.
And people nowadays don't know how to release that before it gets to that point. And that's what psychotherapy is it's learning to not only release it, but bring it, like she called it, dredge the pond, so that you let something in and you're able to get it back out quick and you have a stable mindset. But people nowadays, they don't know how to deal with emotions.
No.
I mean, that's kind of where I go off. With my singing of songs, most of my songs are about deep emotions, especially like I do a lot of grunge music because, back in the 80s, we had the hair bands, all the videos were sports cars and women in bikinis and drugs and this and that. And people really, they loved those music. That was great. That was a big hit back then. But the average person couldn't really understand that lifestyle.
Right.
And then when grunge music came out, Nirvana and Soundgarden, all them, they brought out a generation of people that were like, wait a minute, my life isn't what I thought it was. I grew up watching the Brady Bunch and, Gilligan's Island and, all these shows that were like really sweet in the family life. My family wasn't like that. My mom was a lunatic. My dad was a lunatic. My mom did drugs. My dad did this, this guy did suicide. My life is fucked up. And that brought out that generation of people who started to feel. And I think that people are very still confused about what feelings are. You have people like Chester Bennington who, with Linkin Park, you listen to his songs and it's just so deep. He not only made you feel, he told you what you were feeling.
Right.
And that resonated with a lot of people.
Well, I'd like to check out some of the music you've done. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
You're touching on something really, really profound there, David. Like I can't wait. I want to dive into this and the psychotherapy and everything. And it's wild. Like the spiritual side of things too. Like you think about psychotherapy and counseling. It's interesting. I've had my greatest breakthroughs with the counselor, Jesus, like the number one. And it's wild because like seeking that relationship were some, I feel, breakthroughs me personally I would have never even been able to achieve with the most learned, top. There's spare no expense, no dollar amount in this life, no expert like could have, I truly feel, but everything can be a leading step to learning, growing. So if you're not comfortable with God and you got that door closed like I did because the traumas in my life, I get that. It's to our own detriment and it takes maturing and understanding and seeking and then getting those feelings to wow, that felt kind of good. I'm curious more and just life experience, right? And that's fulfilling the very purpose as to why we're here. But I am here to testify, like I've had the biggest breakthroughs in my life from the greatest counselor, Jesus Christ, who saved me. Like saved, I believe, all of us. Every single one of us. Like, and I can't even describe it. I can't articulate it. And, like there's specifics I'm sure I could dive into at some point or another. But for people to just seek taking steps and learning themselves and understanding everything and decompressing, like life is just very challenging, but it's interesting. We can shift perspectives instead of it being all doom and gloom, we can accept these hardships as opportunities to learn and grow. And that goes for all of them. We genuinely can gain that perspective. As hard as it is, as impossible as it seems, we just got to achieve a healthy enough state to have that shift.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that takes. Man, I don't want to get off the chat here, David, because I mean, we've gone over so much. You've been such a gift and a blessing even to me, and you truly are stronger than you know. And
thanks, man.
I believe with time, everything, like, we have the opportunity to make everything come full circle. Like, we went through everything for a reason. Like, I don't believe it was God's will to put us in a harmful, destructive, painful path. I believe that has a lot to do with evil that's present here. You know, he's just there to champion us along the way, and he can truly make any hardship beyond worth it. Like, beyond worth it. No matter what it takes. And it's so much is wildly out of our control. But with our greatest champion there by our side, like, it can breathe that. It's so awesome to hear, like, you sitting there at dinner and being at that place of peace, being present in that restaurant with your wife and having that conversation. That's miracle breakthrough. That's beautiful. And that's amazing to hear with the freaking stuff you've been through, brother. And that's going to breathe some light and hope into some individuals. And I just like to kind of end on calls to action. We need each and every one of you to become the best version of yourself yesterday. We live in a very blessed time, a very challenged time. But as we can champion these narratives and bring things into the light, we truly can ensure a better tomorrow for not just ourselves, but our future. But we got to start. There's got to be a certain percentage of taking these additional steps, doing things like David here has done, and champion these narratives in order to fulfill that. So we so greatly need you, and we appreciate you listening and tuning in. There'll be some links that you're going to shoot to me, David, and I'd happily put them in the description. So if you guys, if he might leave a link to even reach out to him. I mean, I don't know. Just be sure to check that out. Support us on our journey, and I'll give you the last word. Is there anything else you'd like to cover, David?
I think in this day of age, the only thing I want to say is just be kind to one another. I mean, we live in a very hateful world, and we're being torn apart. No matter what your feelings are, it doesn't matter your political feelings, your feelings on sex, race, doesn't matter. Just be kind to everyone. There's no reason to be mean to anyone. Right. Just love one another. That's it.
That's beautiful.
Enjoy life. Enjoy and love yourself.
Yeah. Our greatest counselor really led by example, and we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't understand that walk. That really gives us the roadmap into fulfilling why we're here and becoming our best selves. And I believe ending up on that kind of loving heart and that loving fruit of the Spirit we also desperately need, because after all, we are all just visitors here. So gosh, if we could just suck a little less each and every day, we're doing something right. So hang on the line, David. I'll just do a quick sign off. I want to chat with you a bit. Folks, thanks so much for supporting Unmuzzled Chat. Please share this one far and wide. We need you. God bless you all. Take care. Till next time.